Okay, we are live. You guys, I am so excited. We were just talking in the background here. I'm so excited for her. This is Dr. Gretchen Shibl. She's a licensed psychologist, and I'm not going to speak for her. So we just said I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself. We do have the camera a little closer today because this is just such a special interview, and I'm really excited about this. And I know you guys are too. I've gotten so many private messages of people who are like, I can't wait for this. So, Dr. Gretchen, please.
Thank you, Race. Well, hi, everybody. You probably have seen me in the chat. I've, attended and been a part of some of the live streams on Race's channel. I am a licensed psychologist. I am situated in Orange County, California, so it's like in between LA and San Diego. I was telling Reese, I've been in private practice solely in private practice, doing that for about the last 4 years. So that's been really cool. I've had flexible, work schedule, and I have a elementary school kid at home. So I mean, not at home, but he's at school. So that's been really great. But I kind of and before that, I've worked in different type of areas like hospital settings. I've worked in with the homeless population, older adults specifically, Reese. I've seen all the way up to not as old as Fred, but like 91 or 92. I did some therapy with someone then.
Okay,
And
I like it.
young
I
as
like
as young as about 5. So I've
wow.
taught the whole range of folks. Right now, I'm just mainly doing individual one-on-one therapy and in my office and online, like here, like some
Okay.
format. So yeah, I don't know how much else you want to know, or I could tell about myself, but
No, I think I think this is pretty much what we're getting down to that question there.
Kristen,
Um, they want to know. They want to know.
they want to know.
So you
I
see
think there
people
you
like
got,
my.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you have a lot of very skilled folks in there that are helping you, that can give you feedback there.
Lots of skilled folks. There's quite a few. There's thousands actually. I somebody did ask. Robin said, how did she find your channel? That's a good question. Actually, I don't know.
How did I find your channel? Gosh, that is a good question. I think I had found first SBTV, and then I think I found Aaron, and you were on one of Aaron's
Yeah,
shows, and then I
that's what
checked out
most
your
people
channel
say.
through there. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. And you've been watching for a while because I remember seeing your name in the chats. I mean, I don't know, maybe a month or more.
Yeah, a few months. I would say
Okay.
maybe since about October. So not too long. Not some of your folks that have been with you, I think, since the beginning, because you started when?
I started in August. It's still not
Okay.
that old. So pretty much everybody's been with me,
Mm-hmm.
give or take. But okay, well, this is just very exciting. I just want to say again, I already told you via text and email and probably at least 13 times in the last 20, 30 minutes. But thank you. Thank you for doing this. This is a big, big deal to all of us. And yeah, look, Ursina, this is our oncologist. Good evening from Europe. Greetings from one doctor to another.
Hi,
I
Rosina.
love her too. That's amazing. So you see people this way too. My guy Wyatt, I guess he sees people via like Zoom. Is that what you do
Okay.
too? Do you do
Yeah,
that with
through video
clients,
chat.
patients?
Mm-hmm. So but you go into the office, right? You go
I
see
do
them in the office?
only sees patients on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then everything else is on the screen. And I could do that, but I just like being in person. And it's not close to my house. It's probably 35 minutes away, but I just enjoy the one-on-one. But now that I've seen him for months and months, I do feel like I could probably shift away and do this because I know him, I feel comfortable
Right.
with him now. So,
And I think there is a component where it was interesting. Like I literally started my private practice in, I think, September of 2019, and then COVID hit literally 6 months later. So
yeah.
really had to transition fast. Thankfully, I had already streamlined everything prior to like paperwork, everything online. So that wasn't too much of a transition. But then a lot of people like were kind of uncomfortable with the transition to video, right?
Yes.
So they're
Yes.
like, well, I'd rather come in person. I'm like, I'm not open yet. I just don't feel comfortable being open quite yet. And everyone had different comfort level that way. And then once I opened the office and said, "Hey, I'm doing office visits," people were like, yeah, so I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
I'd rather just stay at home, or
Yes.
stay wherever. Totally understand that, because when you're um, in your own space, there's a comfort level there, right? There's
Oh, yeah, for
like
sure.
sometimes you can open up a little bit more.
I
So
agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And what's funny is he told me last week before COVID, you couldn't do this on this wasn't an option. Like with insurance and things like that, if you use insurance, you could not do it via computer. Is that right?
so there was some, I think, yeah, there was some, especially with insurance, I think that was the case. So there was some problems with insurance coverage with that. Um, and then of course they had to do it. I mean, there was no other option
Yeah.
for that, for
Yeah.
healthcare. So I think that was a component. But in terms of specialized training for telehealth, I don't think necessarily there was a certain guideline there. But
Right. Yeah.
um, and I
Interesting.
just wanted to interject for a moment and say, like someone was asking about a disclaimer earlier. I think on
Hmm.
another chat, and let me just get that out of the way so we can get that. I I am a licensed psychologist. I do treatment, but this is not a substitute for treatment. Obviously, you want to seek your own, professional mental health care. It's just mainly for me to have a chat with Reese and all of you, and you know,
Yeah,
um, to maybe provide some education if anyone has any questions too.
for sure. For sure. Yeah, guys, she's just here to you give us her own time and chat with us. This is just a chat like it is on our channel always. She's obviously not diagnosing anything, right?
Right.
But this is pretty amazing to have somebody be willing to do this with us. So again, we're very grateful to have you. And well, let's talk about it. I know people are going to have questions. I'm assuming, do you know like the background story with me, like
Hmm.
the
Mostly.
Scientology stuff, and you watched the aftermath,
I did.
right? Okay, okay. Um, yeah, I love that. I have a therapist just like to see what your thoughts are. We respect your opinion gratefully. Yeah, that's how I feel
Yeah.
too, Brooke. I'm really excited to talk with Dr. Gretchen. Um, so what honestly, this is kind of funny. We've had this scheduled for a little bit. Now I'm going, I didn't have anything planned. I don't have any questions for you.
There was no agenda. Now there's no agenda, right? Totally.
This is my style though. Like I don't do well with a script, so I'm pretty
We
off
don't
the
have to
cuff
do a
anyway.
script.
No, but I just realized after having this scheduled for this long, I literally am like, what should I ask her? I haven't thought about it. And that's okay. But do you have hi Blakey? Do you have a do you have any thoughts? Like I really am curious to know, and I don't want to make this all about me, but at the same time, I'm really curious to know just how much you know about me at this point. Do you have any thoughts as to like and I don't know how much you've watched, but like we've unpacked a lot. Me and my family here, the chat, we've unpacked a lot as far as like, I don't know if you know how needy and like insecure I am and like kind of reach toward older men, you know that. Do you have any thoughts about that? Like just with how knowledgeable you are. Like what are your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna keep going kind of light and dark, so let me just try to fix that. Yeah. So I mean, again, um,
Pretty much right here what Robin is asking. Do you think Reese has attachment issues? Is it
well, how?
possible, doctor? Is it tell us, doctor? Is it possible?
Okay, okay. Let me just first say this, and I think we were texting before about this a bit. Um, Jeff said something a few chats ago about unlearning what you've to unlearn what you've already learned, and some of that is really, really toxic and dysfunctional ways of thinking about yourself in the world, life. Um, Not everything, right? Not all of it, but just some parts of it. On top of that, you have, right, some pretty abusive situations going on. And then, you know, the father issue that, I mean, terrible and tragic, right? So, and just, I mean, all those things together, you look at it, you say, okay, um, that's a series of what we call, and I think you had mentioned this, complex PTSD, right? They call it CPSD, or complex
Mm-hmm.
PTSD, which essentially means you have not just one traumatic event, but you have several different traumas that kind of stack up on each top of each other. And so there's no real um, time to get some type of safety, some type of psychological safety, in some cases, maybe even physical safety. But, and then who do you go to, right? When you're in that type of environment that supports and actually doesn't protect minors or, other folks in its institution, there's nowhere to go, right? Essentially. And so where that feeling of being hyper vigilant, but where do you find safety? So there's a lot of different coping ways of coping, compartmentalizing, because you have to go on. You're in that environment, right? And you have to keep going. So that in and of itself, not having any time or space to process it for years on end, I'm guessing, correct? Right? It just like,
Yes. It just kept stacking up. Yeah.
yeah,
There wasn't a lot of breathing room.
right. And so that's, I mean, that is going to take some time to really gain a sense of safety. And
Yeah.
like speaking, you're talking about attachment issues, in like in relationships, we talk, even romantic relationships, it's three types of primary safety, which is physical safety, um, emotional safety, and commitment safety. So
Hmm.
if you don't, if there's not a sense of, like someone said, attachment, feeling that sense of like, I can trust this person, they're not gonna walk away from me.
Right. That's my issue for sure. Like having that I struggle with that in my marriage. I still feel that way. So, do you think that that's something that I mean, I'm newly out, right? It's been a little over a year.
Sure.
Will this eventually fall off and kind of like time heals all kind of thing? I mean, obviously we're working on it every week. I go to therapy, but I have this fear that I will always be this way because I've always been this way. Will I be in like 5, 10 years go, thank God I worked through that. I'm no longer that way and I'm a fresh new human being? Or do you think that I will always kind of feel that fear, that attachment fear? Because I feel it all the time, even making friends.
Mm,
Gretchen, like even having in a friendship, I'm like, she doesn't want to be my friend. She says she wants to go to lunch, but she doesn't. And then I don't hear from her or whoever it is. And I'm like, see, I was right. Do you think that I will see, we talked about this last week. Like you don't believe in
sure.
yourself. So it's going to be hard for you to believe in other people to believe in you. Like it's, you got to get to the point where you fight
Right.
for, somebody's fighting for you and you don't even see that because you can't fight for yourself.
So it starts with you essentially then, right? I mean, it starts
Right.
with you feeling confident and safe within yourself and saying, I'm a whole person, essentially. I'm
And I have
it do-
worth.
correct. And you don't need to have been in a cult type situation to have felt that. I mean, many of
Right.
us feel that way, or at some point in our life, we feel, because of life circumstances, a feeling of low self worth, and that's something that's ongoing. And of course, you can, with the right support, with therapy, with your own kind of personal work, and you know, um, improve on that. Now, I don't know. No one in life, right, is going to be able to, like what they say, you can't go back and change the past, right? You can't go back and change, let's say, your father situation, what happened there. Um, and then you look at, okay, there were emotional needs that weren't met at all,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate. That's really a terrible, sad situation, and yet you can talk about how the special attachments you have now or that you have had, right? And look at that, and that reminding yourself that now is different. Now is a different time. Even with trauma, that's what I tell people, to have that mantra of like, I am safe in this moment, or I am a different person. Because easily
Yes.
enough, with people in trauma, they get pulled back to that little girl, like speaking to your point about that time, I'm sure is marked, like etched in your mind, about when he
Yes.
left. And you can say, okay, I'm not that 16-year-old girl anymore, right? I'm this person now, and I'm worth something. I don't have to believe those things that people told me about myself back then.
That's amazing. Just that is amazing because that's something that I've been trying to separate and go, that was him, not me. Like his actions do not make who I am and form who I am as a person. Just because he didn't see worth in me, I went on for the next 20 years going, I'm not worth anything. And I've got to learn to go, that's not the case anymore. That's not who I am just because he said that's who I am. Right?
And those, if I may be so bold to say, those were lies. I mean, he was telling you lies about yourself, which is terrible. I mean, I see that all the time, right? I see that. And we talk about, whose voice is that in your head? It's not yours. It's your dad's, your mom's, your uncle's, that, young relationship that was abusive or whatever.
Do you
It's
tell
that
your
person.
patients that? Like whose voice is that in your head? That's not you. See,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
to me, that's important to even say out loud. Like, I don't know if that helps you guys in the chat, but even going when you hear those, I think Tommy calls them ants, and I don't know if that's like an actual term.
It is.
Automatic negative thought. Okay, okay.
Right.
Obviously, I wouldn't know what that was in Scientology. We wouldn't use that as a term, but that is helpful to even in my mind going forward. Go, that's not me. That isn't
Mhm.
me. That was then. That was him. That was whoever. And like you just said, those are lies. So discover who you are now and just go forward. I like that. I like
Mhm.
that a lot. And that also helps with my next question. I was going to say, how do you unlearn? How do you unlearn something? And I may just have answered it, what we were just doing. It's kind of planning for the future too. Like that's not me. So take that out, like kind of unpack that and put something good there because that's not you. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out too, like I was worried about that in therapy last week. I thought, how do I how do I find the self-worth so that I can see other people see my worth? How do I Because I think, Gretchen, once I do that, I won't have as much of a problem with that neediness, that like, I need you to need me. I need you to show me, give me attention. That's all because I'm trying to probably fill something that's empty, right?
And sometimes it starts with just the language. I have whole conversations with people, and they hate me for it. By the way, my clients, no, they don't hate me for it, but they're like, "Darn you!" Like I will tell them, I want you to take this out of your vocabulary, and one of them is, "Yes, but." Like I'm not saying anyone in this room here, Reese, but I'm thinking that um, there's there's someone that might hear some compliments in their chat and say yes, but right for yourself. So
Yes.
so so saying, just even accepting compliments, right? Accepting the positive feedback that's coming your way, and
So
just
hard to do.
say thank you. Like they say, oh, your hair looks beautiful today, Reese, and you're like, oh gosh,
I
no,
do
and
it
then
all the time.
yeah.
All the time. It's like
So
I
just
can't accept it. I'm not willing to
yeah.
accept it. Because that's the point. I feel like I'm not I'm not there with myself. So how am I expected to accept something from you and believe you? I don't believe me.
Hmm.
I don't see
Love
it.
the
I don't.
hair. See, there you go, right
Rhonda.
there.
Well, guys, speaking of the hair,
Let's
I was
practice
never
it.
going to
Let's practice it, Reese, right now. Love the hair.
I never wanted to do this hair again. I just have to say really quick. I love when I do my hair like this. And I went on Tommy's channel like 2 days ago and I had my hair straight, which is what it normally looks like. And that's my natural. And this lady goes, Reese, I love the hair like this. She goes, it looks so much better than those stupid, pathetic curls. And I was like, oh my God. Like, whoa,
Talk
that
about a
started out
backhander.
great.
Yeah.
That really fell flat. I was like, okay, never going to do that again. But then I was like, no, because I like it. I kind of did what we're talking about now. I was like, why would I let one person, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was bizarre. I was like, what a sweet never mind. She's awful. And I hope the forces of evil find their way to her front door.
That was in a chat,
Anyway,
or was it
it
direct
was in a
message?
chat. No, it
Uh,
was in a chat. She was like, so much better than those stupid, pathetic curls. And I was like, whoa, like you should probably see somebody. I'm doing the same. Maybe you should find someone as well on
yeah.
Mondays. Anyway, so that's kind of ties into what we're talking about though. I think I'm trying to also talk this out for the chat because I know how much it helps
Yeah.
for people with their situations. So, um I think that's, guys, that's a good tip. And most of you probably already know this stuff. I'm the one that's behind. But just, Dr. Gretchen, like, just kind of, when you find yourself in that situation where you're feeling small or you're feeling whatever, I mean, that's how I feel. I get very, very insecure.
Mhm.
Um, would that be a helpful thing? I'm trying to find, I'm such a planner with stuff like that. Like,
Right.
I'm not in a good place. How can I carve a path to get to that place? I'm trying to dig out of stuff all the time. I don't necessarily, I say this a lot. I don't want to go back and go, well, I'm that way because of him and that connects these dots. I don't really care why I'm this way. I just want to climb the heck out of it. I hate being in it. I feel trapped a lot because I'm like, you're ugly. Nobody likes you. Like, I do this to myself all day long. Will I ever get better, or will I mean, if that's what I mean, like, can I
Well,
can I use these
so
tools? I need the
right.
tools.
So I think in therapy, and hopefully you're getting this from your therapy sessions, or if not, you can ask for it. But I think there's a balance there, right? It's between it's basically sometimes we need to go back and explore why you have these thoughts about yourself or where they came from,
Yeah.
and address that, like we just maybe even touched upon, right? Like, who is that talking? Where'd you learn that? And why have you
Mhm.
accepted that as your truth? Because that sometimes these things that we think about, these things that we think are about ourselves, about other people, like you said, that lack of trust that people are telling me actually truthfully what their, that their intentions are honest and true. You kind of question it and think, oh, can I trust them? Where does that come from? And sometimes we have to look at that to say, okay, is that coming from my real lived experience that people have, um, you know, burned me, you know, have done something to me, or is it from something that people have told me about myself that I've just kind of accepted and hasn't. A lot of people accept things about themselves. You'll be surprised. Like, I'm a failure. I never amount to anything. Let's say they were taught growing up. They just kind of fall into that thinking pattern. It's like it goes unchecked for years. It's so crazy. And then you say, okay, well, where did you get that from? And why, you know, you're you're the head of this company, or you have a successful
Yes.
business, and you have a loving family, and your kids are doing well, and blah 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 blah, on and on. You can do a list a mile long of all the wonderful things going on in their life, things that they've put time and effort into that have been successful. But those, like you said, the automatic negative thoughts of just, I'm just a failure, I'm not a good, you know XYZ. So that's a component of it. But then you're right, checking yourself, and awareness is the first part. You need to be aware that it's something's actually going on, and then pausing and having, something to replace it with. So I
I
look at
like
it.
that a lot.
Yeah. So it's
Can I
like
ask you
that.
something?
Yeah. Hmm.
It never occurred to me, and this is kind of off topic, but I don't think of myself as a successful individual at all. I think of myself as a total nobody, like, again, not going to amount to anything. Do you have actual people that are like real people that are successful, like you just said, like CEOs that actually like make good money and have like kids that went to college and whatever the definition of success is? Do you actually have people that are like me that are like, I'm not good at this, or I'm not going to amount to? I assume people like that are like the most confident individuals on planet Earth and they know they're good. And do you have like real people? Sorry, that does that all the time. Do you have real people that are really truly successful that don't believe in themselves? I never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I always say, like, I've worked from everybody from like a person, a homeless person on the street, to some pretty successful people, and um, and it doesn't matter, right? I mean, it just your your
I know that's a
your
shallow thing,
your
but
view about yourself is your view about yourself, no matter what. Now, sometimes you could say, well, they're trying to compensate and trying to, so they do all these things and become successful to try to prove to themselves that they're worth something. That could be another
I
part of it.
I just want to clarify and say I realize how shallow and stupid that question sounded coming out, but the reason I say that is because if I had some $1 million company that I built from the ground up, or if I was like had some really good job where I was making tons of money. I don't know. I think but it's the same thing. I'm like, if I lost another 50 pounds, I would look good. Like, it's one of those things where it's kind of, if I just only had this, I'd be successful and I would think differently of myself. And that's what I think. Like, people who truly are really wealthy and doing well in life and healthy, and I just assume that they know it. But you're telling me that there are people that still don't think of that as successful or think highly of themselves.
Or they're just not happy too. I mean, you have that component too, right? Um, like people were shocked when someone like Kate Spade, you talk about fashion a lot, Kate Spade, you know, died by
That was
suicide,
horrible.
you
Yeah, that was
know?
so sad.
And you hear about that, and I hate to bring up, I mean, we talk about this. I mean, I'm comfortable talking about those types of things because I'm a therapist, but it just, people go, well, she had, successful business and she's, had it seemed like she had a good family, and not to even say that those are things that we need to always judge success off of, just being happy and being comfortable in your own skin, that's a success, right? But
Yes, or you're having your health. There are
health.
plenty of things that I take for granted and overlook. And I'm like, that's a form of success. But I think
Mhm.
coming from shallow Scientology too, my idea of success is money, money, money. Like, that's all you ever see in Scientology. And those are the ones that are rewarded, are the people who can climb the bridge and go OT. Nobody can just go OT. You have to have tons of money to back that up. So then
Right.
your idea of success is, oh, the OT8s, but they're billionaires. So, and then my dad was that way too. So I hate to sound shallow, but that is what we were taught in Scientology, is like, if you don't have any money, you're a nobody and you're not going to ever climb the bridge. You're not going to go up the bridge. And that's the whole point of being a Scientologist. So rich people are OT8s. Poor people can't get up the bridge. So
So you
that
can't
was
get to the
success.
highest level of enlightenment or whatever it is
Yeah.
that
And
they
if you
consider that.
can't, you're shamed for that. Like, oh, well, your eternity is crap. You're ruined. You're never going to make it if you can't. You need to figure out a way to make money. Take out these credit cards. Like, it's all wrapped around that is what success is. So to me, success, it has a big part of that is like people who built a nice life for themselves and they're wealthy and they have nice things, and that's kind of what I was brought up thinking. And I still think that.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And I was thinking about the idea too. Another part of Scientology that is so interesting is what you talked about, the reactive mind and how it's so suppressed. And it's just about, you know, being more of a suppressing a lot of emotions, which is so damaging, so damaging. And that's another level of just, learning that that part of yourself is like, it's okay to express, it's okay. Anger is okay. Anger is just another response to, our environment. It's not a bad emotion. Sadness, frustration, happiness, joy, and those
None of
things.
that's allowed.
Right, right. I mean, it, like, to be more robotic in your nature, that's um, pretty hard, especially for kids. Kids are not treated like kids, but just suppressing emotion, then you're all in this kind of logical thinking mind and you can't get over to that emotional side. So
Not
that's
allowed to, because the reactive mind is a dangerous, poisonous place, and that's where all the emotions lie.
right.
So we're trained from a very young age to not show emotion or have emotion. And I never thought about that either. What you said, what did you say when you started saying that? You said that's very dangerous to not
Damaging, yeah.
damaging. Yeah.
Because when the message is you can't express any of those emotions, where do they go? They have to go somewhere. Uh, you just suppress them and pretend they don't exist, especially as a child. I mean, kids are, supposed to feel that way. Adults are supposed to be able to feel.
And I guess
So,
if you do that to a kid, you're going to raise a pretty damaged adult, I would think. And I'm not just
well,
talking about me, I'm talking about a lot of Scientologists or other cults that may do that.
mhm. Because let's put it this way, the less emotional kind of response you have, the more robotic you can be, the more you can be controlled, correct? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what my kind of feeling is about it. But I don't know. You could speak more to that, I guess, about
No, I
Scientology.
make that sums it up. I mean, that makes sense to me. I think when you put fear into a person in general and
Right.
tell them all about their reactive mind and how you don't want to trigger this and that, and you train them to not use it. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think that's probably L. Ron Hubbard was figuring out a way to, and that's nothing new, right? That's all I know is Scientology. But from what I've
Right.
heard, that's been done, right? I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you have patients who were not in Scientology, but you've seen this kind of similar story before, I'm guessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who
Oh
were
yeah.
abused and scared into doing things, to believing things that are not true.
Yeah. Different types of very very, I don't know, very restrictive and limiting type borderline borderline cult, or kind of, yeah, very very strict that way. And then there are people that just, I've had people that just kind of have these experiences, go all in something, withdraw themselves, and they're just completely avoid anything related to any kind of religion or faith. And I understand that, because that was under the guise of, like, the Church of Scientology. It's under the guise of religion. So
Yeah.
that could be a reaction too, is like, I don't want to get anywhere near anything religious, spiritual, faith based, because that's understandable. One of
Yeah,
the
I'm definitely not there. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, and that's perfectly, whatever the person wants to do. But it's also understanding sometimes that's a trigger. The trauma response is just wanting to avoid anything that might be associated with something that would trigger that trauma, right?
Have you seen that with just like religion, like just more mainstream religion? Have you seen any people before that like are kind of in a similar boat where I don't know if it's Catholicism, I don't know other religions, but like where it was so strict in their childhood, or that they are kind of nervous and afraid as an adult and don't want to do this or that because it'll violate, how God feels or whatever it is or whatever they worship. Like, have you seen that? Has that happened?
Yeah, sure. There have been people, like, very strict in the way that maybe their parents, forced them into kind of going one way, and then there's kind of this resistance to it, and they don't feel like that fits them as they become adults. Surely, yeah,
Yeah.
that is the
Okay.
case.
So I asked that because I assume, I know I'm not the only one, and I'm speaking. I want this to reach a lot of people and know that they're not alone, and know
Mhm.
that therapy is such a good thing. It's such a safety net for you. It's for me anyway. I mean, and even just talking to you, I know I would see you as a therapist professionally. I know I would. I just really like you. I think you're very insightful. I think we jive. We're kind of similar on the same page with where we're going. But I really want people, because I know there's all the backgrounds out there. I know, this is not a Scientology thing. There's so many people that have something, right? And let me ask you, is that a lot of that start with childhood? Like when you see people and they have some issue, whatever it may be. For me, it's my insecurities and not believing myself. That started in childhood at that point. Do some people have like a really great childhood and then it gets, as an adult, something happens more? Or do you see more people with childhood traumas?
um yeah, I mean, that it really does depend, but there are quite a few people with uh, childhood traumas, childhood events, that they call them, there's a term for it, adverse childhood experiences, ACE. We also have a lot of acronyms in psychology and jargon and
I don't know
things like
them. I
that.
only know
Yeah.
Scientology ones.
Oh my gosh. It's actually like a skill. I feel like that's another skill set, is like distilling down your jargon terms, right, to more like tolerable or useful,
Yes.
like
It's a different language.
daily, right, that people can understand. You're like, okay, well, like the ants, or the core beliefs, or this or that, all these different approaches to therapy. But sure, yeah, there's childhood experiences surely that will influence that. Now, some people will have different experiences also, that will, like in adulthood or early adulthood, that could shape them. Um, if they have a pretty solid foundation, hopefully that won't be as impactful in their life.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
depends on the severity of what the situation was. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's case
it
by
can
case,
be,
I'm sure.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So
I think one other thing I want to say about the childhood thing is I do this a lot, and I think it's like almost a mechanism for me where I go, I don't care, I don't want to go back and go, it's because of this, because of that, and I kind of make fun of it, and I get a little weird about it, and I recognize that I do that. Honestly, I did a live not too long ago where I did go back and I did kind of uncover some things, and I was pretty shaken up for a couple of days after that. I was having, just nervousness. I cried a lot. And I think that's more what it is. I don't want to go back and do that because I don't want to have to face and confront things and remember things. And I think that's my way of going, well, I don't need to know why. I just want to fix it now. I think it does help to know why. I mean, am I wrong there? I think it does help to kind of dust off some things and go, okay, so that happened, and almost just kind of highlight and acknowledge it too, and then be
yeah,
able to separate the two things and go, that was him, not me. Like, I think it does help, Gretchen. I just get scared to go there. Honestly, there are some things that I'm afraid to talk about or think about because they will make me cry. I will get very emotional. And again, you're taught not to do that in Scientology. So it's like still kind of hard for me, even though I cry quite a bit. I probably cry more than most people at this point because it's all coming out sometimes for me and I can't stop. But
and I think
I
that's the
do
part.
think,
Yeah, I know. I was just go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was rambling. You go on, please.
Well, I think that is part of the fear, that when you open up Pandora's box, it's going to unleash kind of just this uncontrollable flood of emotions that is just going to be too overwhelming. Um, and hopefully, you can be like open with your therapist about that, or whoever you're talking to about it. Hopefully, in your case, the therapist, and say, "Hey, I this is my concern." Um, because there's also a bias there that, hey, once I every time I walk out of my therapy session, I should feel like better, right? And I'll be really transparent with clients and say, you know what, it's like you're pulling back that rug and you're getting all that stuff that's under there that's been you pushed under the rug for so many years. It's not going to be an easy process. It's going to be difficult, but you're going to be better for it at the end.
It's work,
And
right? I mean, it's
it
true work.
is, surely it is.
And
And
I would guess
so,
some people give up. Do you see people do that?
of course, and that's why I think it's so important. Like I try to, when I'm working with someone with trauma, is to pace with them and say, I understand that you have some trauma. I want you to know that, asking permission too. Like I would ask for permission. Like, do you want to talk about this? Do you want? I think that's really important because having more control over their experience is pretty key because they didn't have control over their trauma experience. So being able to kind of calibrate that and say, okay, and then checking in with them, or hopefully they'll say to you, hey, or you could say to your therapist, like, hey, this is getting to be too much. This is just getting overwhelmed. And you say, okay, let's scale it back and shift to something else. And so that's more contained, right? So that you don't
Yeah.
feel like you're just opening up something and it's totally exposed and then you're leaving the meeting, right? So we're always taught in our training is like you try not to open up something that you can't kind of somewhat seal back up by the end. Not that you
Yeah.
won't be, like you said, affected by it for days, but that it won't um, feel so raw.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm smiling because it makes me think like in Scientology, if you have what's called a session with your auditor and you're on the cans, you have to end. You cannot end. And it could go for 6 hours. It could go for 9 hours. You have to end when the person is at a good point and like feeling really good. And if you end and that person's at a good point, but let's say you've got 72 hours, you've got 3 days. If the person has any kind of an accident, if they get a cold, if they get sick, anything, they're called red tagged. And it's like a
Mm.
really big deal. And you've got to go back in because something went wrong in the reactive mind. And it just makes me think like how twisted and wrong that is now. Just knowing the little bit that I know, nothing compared to what you know, but the mind is the mind, and you're going to cry and you're going to go places and you might get sick or you might stub your toe after. Like things could I know that when I had that live, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I was kind of reeling for a few days after that. I was not myself. I was uncomfortable with the things I uncovered. I was crying. I started worrying about my son, Huxley, for no weird reason. It was just like I started thinking, what if something happens to him? I was just kind of weird. I wasn't comfortable in my skin. That's got to be normal when you're going through that work, swimming
Mhm.
through that mud. And it just makes me sad for all the Scientologists that are still in it, that are suffering, not being told that's normal. It's normal,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It is normal. And yeah, it's normal. And it's normal to feel, to feel the emotions that come about. I think some people say, well, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be feeling sad because of in this situation. I shouldn't be feeling angry. There's like rules that
Yes.
even if you're not in the situation you were, it's like people come up with rules for themselves. And I think
Yes.
we as people just need to allow ourselves to feel what we need to feel. Just let it be what it
Yes.
is without judgment, without criticizing ourselves. And that's a type of self-love and self-compassion too. It's just letting yourself, okay, I'm angry in this moment, and that's okay. Like I'm gonna just let that be. What kind of support do I need right now? Do I need to reach out to someone? Do I need some time to myself? Like that.
Why can't we do that for ourselves more? Where do those rules come from, I wonder? Because I think it's a Scientology thing because I live in my head and I don't live in anybody else's, but why do we do that? It's like we stop and critique and correct ourselves and go, nope, we have to act a certain way. And you're right. Why can't we just give ourselves the grace to go, I'm upset in this moment? And you're right. Like, do I need to talk to somebody? Do I need to be alone? Do I need to just go get a Starbucks and hang out for a minute and just kind of regroup? Why can't we do that? And I wonder where that comes from, those rules, like we have those rules. Where does that come from? Is it just
Mhm.
growing up? Like just standards, etiquette, society? I don't know where that comes from.
All the above and more, right? I mean, it's and then you look at how we're socialized, right? How we're socialized as people, different, family environments, different cultures, and men versus women. There's some differences there, for
Yeah.
sure. So,
It makes me
uh,
think of looks too. Like for me, I'm definitely, I consider myself huge and overweight. Now a lot of people say, "No, you're not, Reese," but that's how I see myself. And that
mhm,
kind of goes back to the society and standards. Like I need to look like this. I need to be a size 4 in order to be acceptable with myself and others. And it's like, why do we do that? That's not
mhm,
true. That's a total lie. And it's a total lie. And I don't understand why. The hard part is it's like, we know you're told the truth. Okay, so size 4 is not the standard or beautiful. Great. Why can't I move forward though and believe that and accept myself and go, no, I'm pretty, just like that size 4 girl. I don't have to look like that. Like, I think it's bizarre that I can't, and I assume I'm not the only one.
mhm.
I'm told the truth. I see the truth, but I still fall back into that. Nope, nope. I've got to lose weight. I'm too fat. I can't look like this. Like, why can't we move forward? Is it hard for me and not others?
No, I mean, I don't know what your chat says right now. I can't see the comments, but I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure there's plenty of us, including myself, that's the same way. And what the hard part is, I think, or one of the hard parts of that is when you have all whatever stuff you have for yourself, when you have like you have Huxley, I have my son, I have one son too. It's encouraging them in a different way to live differently. So not being hung up on, and of course, men again raising a boy and a girl is much can be
Totally
different.
different. Yeah.
But I try to tell our son it's not about what weight you are. It's not about stepping on the scale or looking at body parts and if you like this body part that. It's about living healthy, right? Making healthy choices, and that's hard though, right? I mean that's what I the messaging I do, but because we all have our own stuff, we all have our own, I don't know, we call it baggage that we what
Yeah.
we bring to the table. Yeah, of course.
And I think it also helps. I really have been focusing on this with my therapist. He tells me a lot. He's like, you've got to start reaching internally for those answers. You are so external with, and that
Mhm.
comes back to like the neediness, the wanting to be like looking for approval, things like that, validated. I'm looking for that externally all the time. And he's like, this is why I don't really give you a lot of like breakdowns on how I feel and what I think you should do. He's like, because that's what you're looking for all the time and you've got it. Like, just turn it around and try to like, it's almost like lift, working out a muscle. Like focus, like change that. You've got to turn it around and try to find that within yourself. Stop reaching so much externally for the answers. Do you agree with that? Like, do you try to talk to people about that too?
Of course, one thing I will say, and maybe this is maybe it's disheartening to the people that come to me first, for first meeting or something. I usually say, like, you have the abilities and the, that whatever you have the resources within you, essentially, and that it's just about uncovering them, strengthening things within yourself, maybe adding some few things or modifying a few things, some things, but it's really, I don't have any magic bullet or magic pill
Yeah.
that's going to solve anything. Um, just to
Yeah.
manage expectations that way, because they're like you said, you've been in your body, yourself for as many years as you've been alive, and so you go to a therapist, someone to talk to get some guidance, and yet, like your therapist said, you have a lot of those things within yourself. So it's just, but again, that can be to approach things a little bit differently, to sit in something, to sit in an emotion that you haven't been experiencing before, or a different thought, like I am worthy, I am lovable, I am great, you know that can be really destabilizing at first. And as humans, we like to be stable, we like that
Yeah.
equilibrium to be, even if it's dysfunctional or not great for us. It's like, okay, this is stable, we like stability. So when we start to approach things a little bit differently, it's a little bit uncomfortable because it's destabilizing.
And I agree with you. And he said something similar about like the body image problems that I have. And he said, rather than you like giving yourself, positive affirmations and going, no, I am beautiful. I am this, I am that, whatever. He said, I don't even know if that's as realistic. He said, why don't you just appreciate your body? Like he said, do you ever just stop and appreciate your body? Like
Mm-hmm.
that it gave you a child, that it digests food like it's supposed to, that you can get up and walk around and, do everything a body does. He said, I think you should focus more on that and like kind of go from there. Like just being appreciative of your body, not so
Right.
much like I'm beautiful. Like that's probably, he's probably telling me that because you're not there yet, is what he's thinking. Like you're not going to believe that anyway. So just start small and go, I'm just glad I have this body. I'm glad that I have hair. I'm glad, that it does the things it's supposed to do. It functions. Do you feel that way?
Right. You start with, sometimes if the person is not quite at a point when they want to make that leap from like more of a negative statements to themselves to positive, then it's, you go for neutral or something really factual in that
Yeah,
case, right?
that makes
So,
sense.
so
That's interesting.
and going back though to the idea of, our negative thoughts is something that we're leaning on like a crutch. If I were to take that crutch away and say, Reese, you just can't stop, you just stop thinking about negative thoughts about yourself. But I think he's good in, since he's giving you something else to replace it with, because he's putting something under you so you're not struggling, you're not having difficulty, so you can stand on 2 feet um, and feel okay
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I think I see sometimes what he's doing and I'm like, that's smart. I didn't think to do that or I would have done it, but I think that's smart, just kind of starting small and not going into the full whatever it is of just being like, I'm gorgeous. Like, no, I'm not going to believe that. And I can't even accept a compliment from others. So that's a little too strong coming on, So I think it is smart to go, just acknowledge your body. And I
First.
do acknowledge and appreciate that I have Huxley. That's my greatest accomplishment and my favorite person and thing on planet Earth. So I mean, I can try to find something that I can agree with my body, which is like, okay, I got a great person out of it. Okay. Well, I love this. I love that we chatted about this. I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm thinking we've got a few comments starred. Would it be okay to go through and answer some questions?
Sure, sure.
Unless there's more that you wanted to say, because I'm on this show every day, but you're not. So I really want to make sure that we
By
get
the way, I don't
everything.
know how you do what you do, because I mean, just, getting on a live every day and doing this. I mean, this is definitely, I was telling you, it's definitely outside my comfort zone, but I'm glad, hey, I'm
It's my
glad I'm doing
favorite
it.
thing in the world. I love doing this. Like, I hope
Yeah.
that I don't fizzle out and people stop following. That's my other big fear is like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and everybody's gone because I really love doing this. Like I would love to grow it, make it bigger, make it better. I love doing it.
I think people are following you. I think they're staying with you. That's my guess.
Well, thank you. I hope you don't go anywhere. Wouldn't that be awkward if you left us?
I'm totally unsubscribing after this. No, yeah, I'm
That would be
totally
weird.
out. I'm out.
You're going to have to stick around now. You can't really go. That would be super awkward, guys. Let's ask Jazzy Girl what she has to say. Do you recommend journaling to your patients? Do you recommend using an app for journaling or writing by hand? That's a good question.
Journaling can be helpful, sure. I actually am doubling down and committing myself to journaling. I know Tommy loves journaling. He does it religiously, it sounds like, but it's very helpful in a lot of ways. Now, people, there's kind of a resistance about journaling because people feel like I don't know what to say, I don't know what to write. Tons of ways to journal. I say it's your journal. You can draw pictures. You can even like scrape if you're just upset. You can just scribble. I don't know, whatever's. But I recommend it specifically for people that have a lot of stuff that they're stuffing, especially with anxiety and people that have sleep problems. For they have racing thoughts at night. That can be a huge tool to help people get out their thoughts. There are apps. I can't if I think about it later, maybe I can text Reese and she can put in somehow. But there are like therapy apps I know of, ones that are cognitive behavioral therapy oriented to kind of check in with your mood and your thoughts and that kind of thing. Specific journaling apps, I don't know, but there is something about putting pen to paper.
Yeah, and I think it was last week or the week before in therapy, he said, "Do you draw or color or anything like that?" And he said that does something with some part of the brain, and like it can be very therapeutic even to just not necessarily journal, but just like draw,
Mhm.
color something. I don't do that, and I thought that was at first I was like, "What a weird question, Wyatt. Why would I?" And I thought, I could see how that could be kind of peaceful and just kind of bring you into a calm place. Do you recommend also any kind of meditation? He told me about an app called Headspace, and he was like, he said he uses it personally.
Headspace. I use the Calm app. That one. There's ton. So meditation can help with various things. One is we don't underestimate like how much our body is involved with our emotions oftentimes. So that's a way to um,
Oh
people
yeah.
with trauma or anxiety. We talk a lot about our nervous system and calming it down. So that can be anything from sensory grounding exercises, yoga. It can be meditation, but definitely it can be a method of um, yeah, I think it's good. Or even there's a ton of things. There's sleep stories on there, like meditative stories. There's music. If you're not
Yeah.
into like a silent, some people think it's a silent meditation. Sometimes there's guided meditations on certain topics, which is great. So
Do you recommend exercise in any way, like for people? He told me about yoga, and I haven't tried it, but
yeah, yoga can be a really good mind body kind of practice. It also really encourages more mm, because it's called the yoga practice, right? It's about
Mhm.
meeting yourself where you're at. So it's not about um, necessarily like accomplishing. It's just about, maybe on a given day you're stiffer than normal and then you can't do it as well. So then you say, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm just going to do whatever I can and that's okay. So it's about
Yeah.
self-acceptance too. That's part of the mind body
True.
part.
I know for
So
me,
yeah.
this sounds crazy. Like later in life, I never enjoyed this before, but in the last like year or two, if it's not horribly cold or something, I really enjoy walking. I
Hmm.
like to take the dogs and just kind of go. And I'm a big music person. I love listen. Some people listen to podcasts. My sister's a big like audiobook person, things like that. That's not for me. I really like listening to music while I clean or cook or walk. It's kind of just a way to check out and hum along, and you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
wondered about that too, guys. That's just another thing. Yeah,
Nature, sure.
Mara.
Like that. Yeah. Oh,
Love
Mara,
Mara.
Mara Mel. I was going to call her
she's
Marshmallow at first. It looked like Marshmallow. Sorry,
that's
Mara.
cute. She would love that either way. This is one of our favorites here, Barbara. How do you start, or what do you say at first visit?
Great question.
It is.
That is also a very interesting question because there can be so much to cover on the first visit. And I normalize that whenever I just saw someone earlier this week or late last week, I should say, about it. And it's some people like to give a brief history of like what's going on. I often start with the here and now because they fill out paperwork too and kind of giving a little
Mhm.
bit of detail about what they're experiencing. Um, but right, I mean, usually sometimes people have more of a structured interview format, and so that kind of guides it. Like what are your symptoms? They ask specific questions. When did the issue start? How long has it been going on? So they look at frequency, how chronic it is, intensity of it, how does it affect your life? That's another thing, because
Yeah.
mind you, mental health is on a continuum, right? So some people say, oh, I get anxious from time to time, for instance. Not a big deal, certain circumstances, and versus someone that's debilitated and can't leave their house because of their social anxiety. That's so different, right? So
Yeah.
we would want to know that. How does it impact your daily life? Are you able to work? Are you able to do your daily activities? Does it affect your school, your work, your relationships, that kind of thing? So they want to know usually what the issue is, the history of how it kind of developed and what's been happening with it, and how impactful it is. I mean, that's a good
Totally.
place to start.
You know
Yeah.
what's really funny about that is, guys, my therapist and then I saw someone before him, and both of them said, "Wow, I really don't have to ask you anything. I really don't have to get anything out of you. You have no problem. No problem at all telling me everything and starting at the beginning." And
When I was born, right? I was
yeah.
born on this day in this
Yeah, they're
hospital.
like, "So tell me about yourself." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I was born." And they're like, "Oh, okay, the very beginning. We're going all the way back." Okay.
And some
Yeah.
people want to focus on the history, right? And so that's okay
Yeah, I
too.
mean, I'm just saying I don't have an issue. Maybe that's why I don't mind the YouTube channel because, like, Aaron doesn't like dead air, and I'm like, I don't have that fear. I don't I don't have that problem at all.
Yeah.
Robin Miners, I love her. Question: what's your advice for people after this pandemic being fearful of going out in big groups? That's a good question. I know a lot of people have that concert, football stadium, etc.
Well, and I mean, that's obviously everyone's personal choice too, right? Knowing kind of what it seems like with a lot of that stuff. I mean, of course, the football playoffs, you see the stadiums are crowded and people are packed in, and like it was pre-pandemic time. So really your choice, what your comfort level is. Um, there are ways that if you wanted to, like for instance, if there's a choice that you could, and you're in a location, let's say a summer concert and it's outdoors versus like an indoor arena, that could be something, checking out the venue, checking out where the seating is that you feel most comfortable in, not being kind of, I remember I went to a few years back. Yeah. December, before I like to go to the Nutcracker, so I forced my husband and my son to go with me. The
I love the
Nutcracker
Nutcracker.
ballet, right?
Yeah,
So I was like, and then I thought about it. I was like, we're like got seats in kind of the middle, and you're like squished. I'm like, this is not comfortable.
yeah,
Um, so that wasn't really great planning, but yeah, checking out the seating situation. Um, sometimes people don't like those higher seats, but maybe those are ones that you feel more comfortable in than down in the midst of
sure.
everything. Outdoor, yeah. But if you don't want to go, don't go. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's everyone's personal choice. Or if there's a smaller venue that you can go to and have a similar experience.
I like that, and I know that that's been I've heard people say since COVID that's an issue for them. I know for
Hmm.
me during COVID, I was like, I got to get out of the house. I did not like being at home. So, I mean, we would just throw on a mask and still get out of the house, and I wasn't
Right.
fearful. But and I'm glad everything's back to normal for the most part because I do like to get out. But I know there's a lot of people that since COVID are kind of like more closed up and they don't want to. So that was good advice. Blake Reed, my therapist required blood from me, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. What finally got me to think twice was her remark, "That's because you don't consider yourself a priority yet." Oh, that's an interesting comment, Blake.
Huh. Um, Yeah, I don't know where they go with that one, Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he was just commenting. I mean, do you require
yeah,
that?
no, well, blood work. So I don't know where the context of that is. Yeah, but sometimes like with psychiatric medications, if I don't know, I'm not saying anything about Blake, but sometimes people need blood work for that reason. Sometimes
Mhm.
people consider it like if they're getting blood work to get checkup, like a checkup on a physical, or just because during a physical, that could be something that you know is considered something that you're kind of doing for yourself, right? Following up with doctor's appointments. So I don't know, but that's um, yeah, I don't know with the, but yeah, that's
Hmm.
it, to be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Simple lady. Doctor, it's my understanding from what I've heard elsewhere from other experts, my own therapist, and people that have exited cults and narcissistically abusive relationships that they're similar. Do you concur?
Um, hmm.
I don't know that I understand that very well, but
So are you saying, simple lady, that it's like people that are in cults as compared to people in narcissistic abusive relationships? Is that my understanding? Um, yeah, narcissistic abuse is kind of a whole kind of realm in and of itself, but it
mhm.
can, um, there's a whole process there that can happen. Now, narcissistic abuse, there's definitely a degree of gaslighting, which can happen in both.
Yeah.
There's definitely a question of questioning your reality, and kind of sometimes the person who's being the focus of the abuse kind of shifts their reality because they've been gaslighted so much over time from the narcissist, and they become sometimes like there's a diminished quality of their self-worth and self-esteem. So I can see that kind of being similar.
Yeah, totally. I could see that. And just Blake wanted to follow up. She needed to understand my serotonin levels better and as to whether or not I could use Lexapro to manage my anxiety. That makes sense. That's kind of what you were saying, Dr. Gretchen.
Yeah, there's
Um,
one for bipolar disorder, specifically lithium, which is an older medication, but it's very effective. And for that one, it's very sensitive to get blood work pretty regularly, because that one, the therapeutic level is very sensitive, and it could go not to a good level very quickly if you don't get blood tests pretty
I
frequently.
could see that. And this Levitt just has a comment. You are always in Scientology. You're newly out. You've already changed so quickly. You can and will heal more than you may imagine. I look forward to that, Levitt, and I think that's probably
Mhm.
true. And I think Dr. Gretchen was kind of alluding to that too. Is
Agreed.
no one can put a time limit on it or where I'll be, but I'm hoping that as time goes by, and I'm putting the work in. We talked about this. It's work, but I'm doing it. And so I think you guys see it more than me. It's like when you haven't seen a person in a while and they've either lost or gained weight or they look different, but you don't see it because you're with them every day, right?
Right.
It's kind of similar. Like I'm with myself every day, but I think I have made some pretty big changes. I think I'm better than where I started. It's just slow going, and maybe you guys see it more than I do.
Well, even the things that you were saying, I think another point where you're physically, like, you look back and you say physically, like, I just look better now. You find yourself taking care of yourself, or just
Yes.
looking happier. That's a huge change.
Yeah.
um, and even I look at as progress. We smaller changes are big changes, to be honest. Right.
I'm definitely taking way more care of myself for sure. I care more about myself now. I can say that. Like
Yeah.
as a fact. I know I do. Thank you for saying that. I'm trying to hurry through these because, again, I'm trying to be respectful of your time. Guys, we may not get to
Okay.
all of these today. Um,
Hey,
sh-
I cleared some schedule out time for you, Reese, so it's okay.
what an
I'm here.
angel. And something else, since she's going to stay subscribed, she said she is. She may come back sometime. And that's what someone was asking too. Do you have a channel?
I don't.
No.
No, this is why it's so outside my comfort zone. I've never really done social media, which everyone's like, well, you have your own private practice. You should definitely like have Instagram or Facebook and all that. I haven't, but yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, I mean, do you accept new patients?
I do.
You
Yeah.
do? So
Mhm.
if someone, like, I know my guy will see anybody out of state, anywhere, because he sees them on the computer. Would you do that if somebody wanted to see you?
So as I stand, I'm a licensed psychologist in the state of California. So unfortunately, they would need to be a resident of California. So I see people like all over the state through video, but that would be something. There are some credentials that people can see um, folks in other states, but our
And
licensing,
that's
our
okay.
board of psychology, right there are certain states like in the East Coast and things where there's like an agreement between multiple states that they can see, folks with between across state lines, but not quite with
Okay.
California.
Okay. And you know what the good news there is if someone wanted to see you in California, I think my highest number of people that follow my channel are in California. Funnily enough, they're
Well, there's
probably lining up.
well, they're probably though they're. I'm wondering if that has something to do with the LA Scientology.
I don't know. I wondered that too. Do you have like an email or anything that if someone wanted to reach out to you?
So they can go to my website, which is drgretchenshibl.com. It's just my
There you go.
first name.com or doctor, no period, gretchenshibl.com. And yeah, reach out to me. I mean, um, I'm available and I try to make therapy, by the way, uh, like, cause I think it's for some like this kind of mysterious black box of like what goes on, and try to make it not intimidating because I don't, you know,
Yeah, I can tell you
I
do
don't,
that. You're very easy to talk to. I really enjoy talking to you.
thank
I
you.
had a feeling that this was going to go this way just from talking to you over text,
Yeah.
but I just really like you, and I find you very, very easy to chat with. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do have some people in California that would like to. And you have your own practice, right? So you kind of make your own
Mhm.
schedule, and
Yep. I
that's
definitely
really
do.
convenient. That's
Yep.
really nice. When you also have Sam T, when you also have a fulfilling life outside of the relationship, it seems more okay if they were to leave. I could see that, like the abandonment or nervousness that someone's going
Mm.
to leave you. I could see that, Sam. That's a good point. Joel Sachs, I love Joel. Thank you, doctor. I have CPTSD. So that's the complicated in front of it, right?
The
Complex?
complex
Okay.
PTSD, right?
This is so helpful. I have extremely low self-esteem from being told horrible things and being insulted over and over. Well, there you go. So see, we're all
Mhm.
kind of in this boat together, guys. And I really hope this does help everybody. And I also, Dr. Gretchen and I have a similar goal in that this kind of does make people who are maybe thinking about therapy, maybe this will help them get to that point by watching this.
Right.
It's super important. You'd go to the doctor. That's how I feel. You would go to the doctor for something else, body issues, broken leg, what have you. You should have a doctor for your mind. You need those tools. And I don't know where I'd be honestly outside of Scientology without it. It's helped me so much.
And just to destigmatize it a bit more, and I shared this with you personally, I'm a therapist that has therapy. Like I go and get my own therapy, and I'm not afraid to admit it because I think ther- therapists should get therapy. I think that I believe that strongly. Um, Whether or not they get it intermittently or they get it, throughout, because we all as humans, we have personal struggles, we have, personal growth that we, just want to be aware of things, especially being a therapist. I need to know kind of self-awareness is key to what I do. So I
Absolutely.
just wanted to normalize it for anyone that's thinking about it because, it's so important. So I'm not
It's
just,
so important.
yeah.
Yes. Do you just so people probably want to know this too. I saw a couple questions go by. I assume that you private pay, private practice, you don't accept insurance?
Right. I don't know. I do not.
Okay.
There are
Okay.
some folks like that do, and but I do not at this time. No.
Usually private practice I think don't. From the people I saw before Wyatt, he's more in a larger practice. But
Okay.
yeah, and so another person said, "Do you see kids with
Really, just
trauma?"
mainly adults right now. But
Okay.
if someone, I'm always, if someone wants to contact me and I can give them a referral out if they're in this area, like I said, or um, but they can, I'd be happy to help them get referrals. Another website, I don't want to like, I don't know if I can do this, like say website, but
Of course you
psych,
can.
psychologytoday.com is a great resource for, I don't know if people are aware of that. You can filter by like sees kids, filter
Oh, yeah.
criteria, and by your insurance, your zip codes, you can find the therapists in your area that are um, specifically treat the folks that you're, like you want. Let's say, my kid has depression, and I have this type of insurance. You can search that specifically on that website. You just go to psychologytoday.com, find a therapist, and then you go from
Okay.
there.
Okay, that's really helpful, actually. Lori Plays is one of our main moderators. She's fantastic. She's retired law enforcement. And she said, when I was diagnosed with PTSD and complex CPSD wasn't a thing. Okay. What determines one or the other? I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and I've seen a lot and been through a lot. That is a good question, Lori. Like, what's the difference?
Um, so complex PTSD, like I said, is there's a specific criteria for it, but essentially it's what if you have multiple pretty serious trauma events. Now, I would guess that you probably have, um, if you've had seen a lot and seen a lot of trauma, there's also something called vicarious trauma, which is by seeing or hearing about an incident, you can experience trauma symptoms yourself. Um, Probably that would be, but so people, yeah, complex PTSD has it just like it can be various traumas kind of all together.
Sure.
I don't know
That makes
how to
sense.
describe it. I'm not being articulate in this moment, but yeah, right. So, um, and there's also another thing that I work a lot with, because I work a lot with chronic pain and chronic people with chronic pain and chronic illness, medical trauma. So that's another category, which is people that have either misdiagnosis, they go to a hospital, have a procedure, and it goes awry. Um, Providers that are not addressing their conditions, they're being dismissed or being kind of just pushed aside. That's even type
Mhm.
of a little, a medical trauma over time.
Totally.
So
Well, that
yeah.
makes sense. I mean, that makes sense to me. Um, I have a question here because a lot of people have pointed this out. I don't know what this means. It says, "Can you
Okay.
comment on the imposter syndrome, especially with women?" What does that mean?
So imposter syndrome is the feeling that it ties into self-worth, is that you are you're doing something that, like, let's say you're in a job position and you're doing it, but you feel like you're not worthy or you're not confident in your abilities to do it. So let's say for me, I'll use myself as an example. I'm a therapist, a licensed psychologist, but maybe I feel like I'm not good enough, or I'm not really,
Like an
uh,
imposter. Okay.
yeah, because yeah. So, and that can be, you know, going back to, we look at, you don't want to look at always external sources, but that's a good, we call it reality testing, is saying, okay, well, what does your boss say? Your evaluations, what do they say about your work? Do they say you're competent? Do they say you're, what do your coworkers say? So, in other words, getting other clues from your environment to kind of challenge if that's really the case. So to
I
integrate
see.
that into your, so okay, you feel like an imposter, but really to challenge it, right? To challenge that feeling of being an
Yeah.
imposter.
Would you say that back to Panko's comment, is that especially with women, or is it just kind of a mix? Men and women both do it, or is that more of a female thing that you've seen just in your experience?
Um, I've seen it with both. But yeah, there is a component of women that do. There's a, um, yeah, I see it with both though.
Interesting. I mean, I know I feel that. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was, but now that you broke it down, I definitely feel that. And I see a lot of people commenting that they feel it as well.
Right.
Hot Mess Express says, "Can you tell us things to look for in a good therapist? I always seem to get the tone deaf ones who make me feel like they didn't hear a thing I just said to them."
Okay. Um, hmm. Well, I guess it depends on what you're really looking for.
Hmm.
So I hear people say to me sometimes that their therapist will just kind of listen and won't really give a lot of feedback. So I might ask that, if that is something you want more of an interactive experience. Sometimes therapists might sit back. So you'd say, okay, how much are you, you know, interactive in the meeting, or what, will you give me feedback? Therapists
Yeah.
don't largely, a good therapist at all, worth their salt, will say, wouldn't give you advice directly and say you should do this or you should that. We try to lead you to, come up with your own conclusions about your life. But um, hopefully they're not just sitting back and just right. They're listening to
Yeah.
you, and they're kind of trying to summarize, like they'll summarize, hey, this is what I'm hearing you say, is this right?
Yeah.
Or hey, I'm thinking about this based on what you've said, how about that? And so, how interactive they are in the session, what kind of therapy approach they use, that's important. Some therapy approaches, like cognitive behavioral therapy, going back to the automatic negative thoughts, are more back and forth. Um, Let me see. Yeah, I mean, just things that are important to you, some people will ask me personal questions about myself because they're trying to figure out, like, um, if I will understand them. Like, I had someone ask me about my religious background, which is okay.
Mm.
I can answer those questions, but that speaks to me that they want someone maybe aligned more with their religious, like that's important to them. So everyone's so different in what their needs are, but maybe
That's interesting. And you don't mind answering this question? I won't ask you here on the spot, but the first therapist I saw, she was like, and I'm not going to answer any personal questions, so don't ask me. And I was like, okay. I mean, I don't really have any anyway. But my guy I see now he talks about his own life all the time, and he's like, you can always ask me that. Of course. Yeah, I'm married. I have 2 kids. Like, I think that's a better approach for me. Like, just you being open with me just as much. Now, it's not about you. We're not, like I wouldn't be going to talk with him about his life, but I think it's kind of
yeah,
important that you are willing to share things that may put me more at ease, as your patient, if I were doing that. I don't
right.
know.
And I think so. Just to give you some background here quickly, my everyone's, for the most part, our training by and large as psychologists in particular is to have pretty good professional boundaries, and so to not share a lot of ourselves, because it's not about us. The session's about
Right.
the person that's sitting in front of us, and so in that vein, we're thinking, okay, if I share something about myself, it's going to be something I judge. It's going to be of benefit to the person I'm working with. So if I'm going to share a story, it's going to be to relate to their experience so they don't feel so alone in this moment, to normalize
Yes.
their experience, or um,
Yes.
whatever it may be. It's not just like I had a tuna fish sandwich for lunch, right? It's
Right.
let's
Exactly.
let's let's do something a
Pertaining
little
to your
different.
experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Totally. And there's a fine line there because you don't want some patient like just asking random questions about you. You have to protect yourself as well. But if it comes up and it pertains, yeah, my guy Wyatt, I don't call him doctor or anything because he's not a psychologist.
Right.
Otherwise, I would, because I think that's disrespectful. Otherwise, but um, I I just find, I like that he shares with me, he'll tell me something about his family or something, and I don't really ask, but he'll say something and I appreciate that. It just kind of puts a little bit of more comfort there between us that I'm like, I know this guy, I'm comfortable with him. But I thought it was a little weird. The lady in the beginning that I saw, she was like, don't look for me on Facebook, which I was like, who's going to do? I mean, I wouldn't do that, but she was like, don't, we're not friends. Like, please respect those boundaries. Don't ask me anything about me. And I was like, okay, that's a little far though. Like, you know, what if I did want to know what your religion is because of where I came from? Or like, I don't know if I would want to know that. Honestly, I've never asked Wyatt, but I don't think it would matter to me. But what if it did matter? I don't know.
Right. And there might be, right. And I always say you can ask me, things about myself, and and in kind, the person I'm working with, if they don't feel comfortable answering a question I say, just because you come to me for therapy doesn't mean that you have to. I ask you a question, you can have the right to say, I don't really feel comfortable answering that. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's not. Hopefully it's a therapeutic question. I always do, but it's, what if you don't want to really divulge that, or maybe it's something that's too close to home right now that you don't feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing with therapy is that you build trust and rapport. If you don't have that, it's not going to be
Exactly.
fruitful, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm definitely putting my trust into you. I'm telling you some of my deepest things now. YouTube also knows my deepest things. So I tend to
public.
trust everybody. I tend to trust everybody, and that's a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Well, we could
Uh,
talk about boundaries offline. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, probably will need you there.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
go
no, I was
on.
gonna say, well, the caveat there is sometimes with older adults, I share a little bit more about myself, just because
Mhm.
it's just I don't know, it's just something that's a little bit more to go that route. I find that
Yeah,
it helps with rapport. Also, I speak Spanish, so I sometimes do some Spanish therapy, and that's with those, with some folks in Spanish speaking, it helps with rapport.
yeah.
Sharing a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I think it helps with rapport and just being human beings. I mean, if
Of
I
course, it
go
does.
somewhere and just chat it up in a restaurant with somebody or standing in line, they kind of give you a little bit about their background, makes you feel a little
Hmm.
bit more comfortable with them,
Right.
not so closed up. So yeah, I think I could see the fine line there though. I could see the fine line. We can, how are you doing on time? Because
Okay.
I want to be very
Yeah.
respectful. I've got a few more questions, but we can always skip that.
Sure. Sure. No, we're good.
Okay. Okay. Um, Some people just have comments, and I appreciate these. Lisa Marie, be your own best friend, defend and befriend yourself, protect yourself as you would someone you love. That's a huge one that I think all the time. I think I'm so protective of my child, and I would never let somebody treat him bad, and I think, why do I allow it? Like, why do I talk to myself that way? So that's a good
Hmm.
point. That's a good point.
That is a great point.
Brooke Elliott Reese lets us have this space to feel all that. Yeah, it's a safe space. We talk about that all the time. It's a
Right. It's very
non-judgmental
important.
space. Lori says, I feel like the more successful people are, the more likely they are to have issues to work through. I don't know why. It's just a perception I've always had. That could be. I don't know that I share that perception. Do you?
No, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Um, People say like more money, more problems, that kind of thought process, but I don't know. It just really depends. It really depends on. I talk a lot in meetings sometimes with people about values and whether their behaviors align with their values, right? So I might say family is really important or my physical health, but let's say I binge watch Netflix and eat potato chips. Well, it's not aligning with my goal of physical health or my value of that, right?
Sure.
So that's we talk about, and you can have, in terms of what the person values in their life and what that how that stacks up for their wellness and their mental health.
Totally. Do you have experience with people with traumatic brain injuries?
I have had a few folks with traumatic brain injuries, a few people I've worked with post stroke, so with different you know, uh, brain injuries and um, like with stroke, with brain impairments or cognitive impairments that way. Sure,
Sure.
physical impairments.
Justin has a question. What are your thoughts about psychedelic therapies and marijuana for PTSD and other conditions? I'm concerned about its prevalence.
So one that's kind of come to the forefront is ketamine, and I don't know if people are, familiar with that, but that has been largely used for people with what we call treatment-resistant depression. So they've tried psychotherapy, they've tried medications like antidepressants, a whole realm of them. It just hasn't been working, and despite their best efforts, so the ketamine has been very effective, and it's under the supervision, right? They don't take it and go home and take it, right? They are in a professional setting, and they take it under the supervision of the provider. Um, so that one, I don't know, depending on how people feel about the use of that. Marijuana, I live in a state where that's legal now, recreationally.
Mhm.
So I see a lot of people that use either CBD or marijuana for things like specifically for anxiety and pain, more of for their own personal use. And so I guess I don't. Um,
Yeah.
with anything else, it just as long as it's being done safely, and
Yeah. It's certainly more mainstream.
right.
Yeah. I don't judge that. I think whatever works for people. I think Melanie, this is probably a big one for a lot of people. I've heard this. I've been obsessed with dying lately. No, like unaliving myself. But I'm 63 and time went so fast in the blink of an eye and poof, I'll be gone. Yeah, I could
Mm,
see that. I've thought of that too myself. I'm sure that Dr. Gretchen, you've seen that
sure.
as an anxiety for people. Yeah.
Of course. And as even though we all know it can happen at any time to any one of us, as we get older, right, it becomes more salient, more present in our minds. Um, there's a type of therapy I do is like essentially it's existential therapy. It's talking about meaning and death and dying, and I don't think, to be honest, we talk about that enough in
Yeah.
life because
Totally.
it is part of it. It is part of life. Death is, and what does it mean to each person, right? What is that?
Yes. I think you're right. I don't think it's talked about enough. And I think when it does happen, a lot of people aren't prepared for it or how to deal with it. It's
Right.
kind of like, I mean, who am I to say this? Because I didn't really go to school, but I think there's some things in school that should be taught to prepare you for life, like more like finances and things like that. I don't think it's highlighted enough. I think that's similar with death. Like, I've had quite a few deaths and it really shook me up. And once I went through, I mean, working in senior living, there were a lot. And every time I had a hard time with it because I'd get so attached to people, but it does help to kind of like think about it, talk about it openly. And it's not really talked about enough, I don't think,
Right.
that it is a part of life and it's going to happen. And sometimes it happens unexpectedly. And just kind of talking about it, I think helps. But I'm a talker and I like to talk through things and then I feel better about that.
Yeah.
But I agree
It's
with
part
you.
of
I don't
your
think it's
process,
highlighted.
right? It's part of
Definitely
your
part of
process.
mine. Yeah, and a few others. Kathy Ann, anytime I said I shouldn't be feeling or doing this, my old therapist would say, "Who is telling you that? Who do you hear in your mind saying that?" It's kind of like what Dr. Gretchen was saying. And I like that. I never thought about that. Do you agree?
Yeah, and it's not always the case, right? I mean, we have to reserve that and say that it's not always the case that that it's always someone else saying that. Maybe it's just something that you have grabbed onto, and it is you yourself telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, really questioning sometimes. Just, I think if we enter some of these things with less criticism and more curiosity, like, oh, okay, what's this about? Or why am I feeling this in this moment? Not to necessarily evaluate, but okay, um,
Yeah,
it's helpful.
absolutely. I like this question. Should people returning to a life outside of coercive control, whether domestic or religious, Scientology, etc., be encouraged to find a therapist?
Hmm. Maybe you should take that one.
I'm happy to take that one. 100% yes. And I'm here to say, guys, for all those under, I say all those under the radar people, there may be two, there may be 30. I have no idea. I hope there's more actually that are questioning Scientology or in some controlling situation that they're in because yes, you can use me as an example. Yes. I had to go through a couple therapists to find somebody that I felt comfortable with and clicked with and I knew right away, guys. I'm pretty good
Yeah.
with people. I knew right away, like, this isn't for me. Like the person, don't love it though. So yes, 100%, I would say yes to that. It helps a lot to work through and talk through things and get the proper tools with a professional.
And that's a
Um,
good point, Reese. I just want to highlight that sometimes with any doctor, you need to go through a few therapists to find the right one that clicks. I say that 100% in my first meetings with people. I said, you know, this is voluntary. You can stop at any time. And guess what? If this is not the right fit, feel free. I mean, because this is important that you get the right fit. It's like a first date.
yes.
It needs to click for the person.
Needs to
It
click.
needs to,
And you're right about doctors. Like, even I remember when I was pregnant, I went through like 4 different OBGYNs because I was like, I don't really like her. I don't love this. And this person's going to see my vagina more than the person I'm married to for the most part. So I want to make sure that
yeah.
you have a good relationship with her as well as me. We both need to meet you on a one-on-one basis and get to know you. And she has to be comfortable with it just as much
Oh
as
my
me. And
gosh.
sadly, you don't fit. You're not a fit. Joe Virus, can someone with CPS, complicated PTSD, complex, sorry, I keep getting that wrong, get misdiagnosed with situational depression? That's a good question, Joe.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. Um, Anyone could get misdiagnosed with anything. I mean, to be honest, but
Yeah.
yeah, PTSD in general, trauma has a whole different cluster of simple symptoms that we often don't see in depression or anxiety. So, like recurring kind of intrusive thoughts, flashbacks of the trauma, nightmares sometimes can occur, hypervigilance, an exaggerated startle response to like noises, being more sensitive to sensory stimuli that way. So and that doesn't really happen with depression. Anxiety can kind of look that way, but it's not. That's a very specific set of symptoms for trauma, for
I could see
PTSD.
that.
So
Blake says, "What is your advice for going to the gym? I'm terrified of exposing myself to other people because I can't do most basic exercises and I hate my image." Blake, I didn't know that, Blake, because we've talked at length about a lot of things. I did not know that.
yeah, um, gosh. So yeah, I mean, this is not. It's something that is can be very common for people, right? And um, my thought is, if you want to at first, try working out at home. If you want to try that first and see how it feels to you. Um, or if you know when the hours, there's less people at the gym, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
always think about these short kind of steps towards getting the place where you want to go. So I talk about that all the time. So in my meetings with people, it's like, okay, you want to go for a 30-minute walk and you're really depressed. Just start by going outside and standing outside for like a few minutes, just enjoying the sunshine. Then you go this and that. So if his goal is to go to the gym and wanting to work out at the gym for a full, I don't know, 45 minutes or something, maybe just going to the gym and standing there for a while, walking around and seeing how you feel. Then you go and maybe I don't know if he does what kind of equipment or whatever, but, um, you go at a time when there's less people, or it's all about your comfort to get more comfortable with the situation so that
Yes.
and then you go for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and try something and see how you feel. And some people say, well, that's kind of that's, um, not really a good use of my time because it's 15 minutes at the gym if I'm just going to sit there for 5 minutes. But the point is that you're getting yourself to the gym, right? In the grand scheme
Yes.
of things. So that's the important part of it.
That is such a good point, and something I wanna add to that, Blake, my therapist says to me, and I haven't shared this yet with my YouTube channel, which it's not a huge thing, but it was for me. Imagine in your mind how you want it to go before you go.
That's right.
He really helped me with that. I was going to some big family thing over Thanksgiving, and I was in therapy going, "It's gonna go like this," or "Somebody's gonna say something, and it's gonna make me uncomfortable about my channel," or whatever. Because I don't talk about my channel with anybody I personally know, ever. I don't. I just don't want to. It's
Yeah.
kind of a private thing, as weird as that sounds, it is, and he was like, "Well, you think it's gonna do well, you think it's," like, I was basically saying, "It's gonna go like this, it's gonna be awful, and I'm gonna wanna leave, and I'm gonna look at Jeff, and he's not gonna be ready," and he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just imagine how you want it to go. Kinda plan in your mind first how you are gonna let it go, how you're gonna make
Mhm.
it happen." And Blake, I don't know, but we've
That's
touched
good
on that
advice.
more and more. Yeah, we've touched on that more and more on anxieties I give him. I'm like, "It's gonna be awful," or it's, any future stuff. He goes, "Whoa, hold on. Just imagine first in your mind how you want it to go,
Hmm.
and then prepare and plan for that. And then be flexible if it doesn't, right? Like me, be mentally flexible if it doesn't, but be prepared in your mind how you want it to go initially." I think that's great advice.
It
It's
is.
simple. It's
Right.
simple, but it's a nice little, kind of build yourself up and go, "This is what I'm planning on." I don't know,
Hmm.
I just, Blake, maybe that could
It's
help too.
That's very good advice, and that's, positive visualization is essentially, and that's, if you think about it, that's what a lot of even high performance athletes do. I mean, it's not reserved for, you know
True. That's true, these
average
Super Bowl
folks like you and
dudes.
me, Reese.
Yeah, that's true.
it, it's for like,
These
Michael Phelps or whoever, like similar guys.
Yeah.
Like they all,
Ha
when they go to the Olympics, they're running through that. They're doing it perfectly, and just like they
That's
do
right.
that. So, and it works for
Guys,
them. Why can't it work for us?
what do you think Taylor Swift is telling her boyfriend for the Super Bowl? She's saying it's gonna go good, and then when she goes to do a live show and sing, he says, "Babe, it's gonna go good." Let's be like Taylor and Travis, guys. Let's try to
Okay.
I don't
I
know
don't
what
know.
I'm talking about. I don't watch
You took that
football.
a whole different way.
I'm in Kansas City and it's all Taylor and Travis. That's all that's happening here. But honestly, I know nothing
I'm
about it.
just sad that my Packers lost to the Niners, but now they're playing the Chiefs, so I guess I have to root for the Niners because they beat my team. I
There
don't
you
know.
go. I don't root for anybody, but I know that it's true. Like she made a good point with the athletes. Like really just imagine they're not tearing themselves down going, "We're going to lose this game, guys." Like you imagine how you want it to go. That's
Right.
all. It's just a different way of thinking. It's a beautiful way of thinking. I'm trying to hurry here. Amy Lee, I'm so grateful for this collab. Me too, Amy Lee. Looking into starting therapy soon. I've been hesitant, but now I feel so encouraged. That was the
There
goal
we
of
go.
today.
There we
If we could
go.
just touch one person, Amy Lee, that's beautiful.
Thank you,
Thank you
Amy.
for saying that. Oh, that makes me so happy. I bet that makes you really happy.
Yeah, it does.
Bison. I love Bison. Just voicing. I see the same people who have ruined my trust, but see them daily. So I just keep to myself, like at work and some friends, and know things will not change. I understand that.
I think in that situation, sometimes when we know that we accept the reality of what it is, then we can start to put our boundaries a little firmer with those folks, and then that will be helpful to navigate, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a hard situation.
It sounds like she at least is prepared for it. That's like it's a
Right.
bummer of a situation, but if you
Right.
go into it knowing like I know I can't trust these people, I know this, I know that, it kind of at least keeps you guarded, right? You're protecting yourself, I guess. Thank you for this super chat for what it's worth. Reese, know your worth, then add tax. The pink
and and
tax
and interest and interest.
and
Yeah.
interest. Yeah, back taxes. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, one last thing. I don't know. Oh, rain virus, real quick. She said, "Are you comfortable saying?" You don't have to answer this, but she said, "What do you bill an hour?"
Um, I charge like 150 an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually not bad for California. When I was seeing someone here in Kansas City, it was 225. It
Yeah.
was insane.
It
I was like, I
varies.
can't do
Sure.
this. Mira Dira, cute name. How do I break up with my therapist? That's actually a good question. If you're not
Well,
like me, who says way too much.
ghost them. No, I'm just kidding. I've been ghosted. That's okay. How do you break up with your therapist? Well, I guess it matters on how long you've been seeing them, but you could just, a lot of people will do like just saying, you know, like, I'm not, I don't want to reschedule at this time, or, I might contact you in the future. You can do it over email. You can do it over phone. Now, I always say to my, I've been ghosted by my own therapist. Well, that's not great. Do you know, I had a therapy experience where actually my therapist fell asleep on me. Like, honestly,
Oh,
that
you
was
better.
terrible.
You didn't get charged for those minutes, did you?
I hope not. But I think it was because she was a little bit older and it was like after lunch. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
The
But I
carbs,
was
the
like,
carbs kicked in. You
I
can't
know,
blame
I
her.
thought maybe there's a food coma going on. But I thought, seriously? She started
It
to
was a
kind of
good
like do the
lunch.
nodding. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So
Have you
that
ever
was not.
done that? Have you ever fallen asleep
Mm.
on a patient? Oh, that's embarrassing. That's not
Um,
cool.
no, I haven't. But let's see. So yeah, I would say, I mean, there's various ways to do it, but yeah, whatever you feel comfortable doing, you can always let them know too, like, hey, if you definitely think it's not going to happen, not worthy of kind of working through something, because I always say
Yeah.
I'd rather people come to me, and they felt comfortable enough to say, hey, you missed the mark here, or you said this, that I was this happened. I said, yeah, of course. I'm glad that you came to me and told me that, because
Hmm.
this is a relationship that I may not always say something and it might land differently. Might be a miscommunication. And so that's called a therapeutic rupture, and we'll work through it.
Excuse me. And I like what you said. Also, I think a good therapist, like Dr. Gretchen, will say to her patients, I want you to be open with me if this isn't working for you. She kind of alluded to that in their first visit. Like we need to click and make sure that you're communicating with me about that. That would make me feel more at ease to break up with a therapist if they were like, this isn't forced. You can always leave. Like you don't have to be here with me if you're not feeling this. I mean, I do that to people all the time anyway because I'm too scared to be their friends. I do it to Tommy all the time. I'm like, hey, if you don't like me anymore, we don't have to talk ever again. Just so you know, lose my number, don't look at me.
I
But
think we need a joint session with you and Tommy. That we need to do some mediation there.
I was thinking that too. If you were willing, if you're ever willing to carve something out, I think we need a little help. And I hope you're being serious, honestly. Because I need that help. I
Um,
need that help. Um, and this person said, just how do reassure yourself in relationships to feel that sense of safety? I think we kind of covered that, but if you have anything else
mm.
you want to say about it,
Um, so of course there's a lot to that, but one is knowing your own, being confident with yourself first and foremost. Safety, of course, with relationships, and not to sound too cliche as a therapist, but it's all about communication. So
yeah,
if you have the trust and communication and open lines of communication, hopefully you have some degree that you could say, hey, I'm really not feeling safe in this way, or I feel like, I don't feel like I'm getting like the emotional reassurance, or, that I need. Speaking to, I think you referenced this a while back, which I talk about a lot, is love languages. We tend to tell people and show love in the way that we want to receive love,
yes,
but that doesn't necessarily resonate. Like, I am a words of affirmation person. My husband's an act of service. So and
mine too.
we both like physical touch. So it's like, so like me taking the trash cans out before trash day is a huge thing for him, and I'm like, really? Yeah, because it takes off his plate, and it's a wonderful thing. It's like I mean, we've been married a while, but so that's like something. It's like, okay, yeah. But for me, he could do all those things for me, but if he doesn't say, hey, honey, I really, says some things really sweet, it's like,
Yes,
oh. But hey,
that
I
is such
clean,
a good point.
yeah, I made dinner, I did this, I did that, but you didn't say you love me, or you didn't say this or that, right?
Yes. Oh, we could live together. I already knew it. You and I could live. We could. Yep, we're the same. I'm the same. That's my love language, and his is the acts of service and all that. And so it's like I need the words of affirmation though, and I think that's what I'm looking for with people. I'm like, but you didn't say it. Like I need to hear you. Like it's more
Yeah,
to me.
yeah,
I'm 50-50 words of affirmation and quality time, which pretty
okay.
much go hand in hand, right? I mean, I want that time with you, but I also want you to say nice things, and
Hmm.
I just want to sit and listen. Is that too much to ask, Gretchen? Am I reaching for the stars here? Not really.
No, but then it's
Um,
also about really then everyone just realizing that and saying, okay, I guess I recognizing that taking out the trash cans is like so cool. I got to do that, right?
yeah, it's true. You kind of have to recognize what their love language is because it's not
Right.
necessarily yours. That's a good point. You make a good point. Guys, this was amazing. And I'm trying to be respectful of her time. She's a doctor. She has patients to see, but I just want to say, I wish you would also come with us on the cruise. Is that too much to ask?
If I could do like a huge group therapy session, we could get in like a big circle.
No, well, no, you're just such a huge member of SPTV and we love you. And now you're going to be just really so much more in the community. And I want you to go there. I want you to go with us. And truth be told, if I need an emergency session, then yeah, you're around.
I'm serious about the Tommy. I'm serious. I weighed in on the Tommy thing, and I was on point there. By the way, Reese, I was on point.
You were very on point. I'm like, when we're done here, I'm about to call him and say she was serious. Like, I would love that so much. That would be the greatest gift I could have. I'm not kidding. If you ever have the time, because I think Tommy and I could use a little. Now everybody's saying, I thought you guys patched things up.
You did. You
Yeah,
did.
we
I think you
did,
did.
but we're pretty damn rocky still. Like he's just really, I don't know, not in a bad way. We're always going to be friends, guys. It's just I think we need Dr. Gretchen. That's all I'm saying. I think
I just say that tongue in cheek. I'm joking, but no, I think you guys have navigated okay, and you guys are on a good path now.
we're both cancer signs. I think that's the problem. We're just two crabs, just crabbing at it. We're just crabbing. Yeah. But I would, lo- I want you to consider it. I realize you have a whole life and patience and a child. It sounds like we have a kid similar ages, maybe. You kind of alluded to that, and you
Mine's
don't have to
11.
say.
Mine's
Oh,
11.
okay.
And I have a
Cute.
dog, by the way. I want to go and tell you guys this. I have a dog. He's a pug mix. He's the sweetest thing, but he's not as quiet as Gertie. If he hears something, he's going to bark. So he's in doggy daycare today because I didn't
Oh,
want
that's
anything to
cute. Do
inter.
you bring him to work?
I can't because of like the regulations about the office, but No, in my home office here, I definitely he's usually right over there sleeping most of the day.
Cute. Does he breathe loud because he's a pug? Is he that?
He's a pug mix, so he actually has a little snout, so he doesn't, but he does
Oh,
some
nice.
snoring once in a while if he's feeling up to it.
Cute. What's his name?
Luther.
Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's really cute. That's a name you don't hear very often. That's adorable. Okay. Well, we may just have to have you back on to see Luther if you don't mind at some point. It's not
Well,
going to be about you. I mean, we will want your professional opinions again, but it's more to see Luther.
and I'll go on record. I'm sure that I'm not alone in this with your group of friends here, but spot on fucking.
Thank you, Mira, dear. I can do it again for you if you'd like.
I love Gertie and Bo, and kid too, but I'm not very much a cat person. But if at all you need a home for them, I know that you're good with them, but I will take them on.
Okay, so I could leave them in my will to you because nobody seems to be up to the task of how important they are. Would you be willing to treat her like the queen that she is?
Of course, I'd hold her like a
Okay.
baby, like you do.
And you would tell her how special she is, though, and how
I would.
important she is all the
I
time?
would. Oh my
I
gosh,
would
you
expect you to know
don't
that,
know. You
her
don't
love
know how
language.
many times I've just loved. She's just like, that's my Gertie impression.
People are like, "Is she dead?"
Oh my gosh, she just like looks like she's like.
She just, you know what that's from is the senior living place I worked at. I took her to work every day. And so all the ladies would carry her around or they'd push her around in their walkers. And she's
Yeah.
fine with it. But I do not drug her. People ask me that often. No, I don't. She's just that chill. But that's good to know. Would you be willing to drive if I were to die? Would you come pick her up and drive to California? She doesn't want to go on an airplane.
No, I would want her to. Yeah, I would.
You would
But
drive her back to your
of course
practice?
I would.
Okay. These are questions
To
I
my
need to know the
home.
answers to.
To my
Right. That's what I
home.
mean.
She's gonna stay with me. Yeah.
Okay, and, you would treat her
Bo
like she's
too.
supposed to be tr
You'd have to
okay.
keep them together. They're like what
I
do they call
forget
them, a
about
bonded
Bo.
pair.
I love
No.
Bo, but he's a gent, he's distinguished. Gertie is needy, and you need to know these things. I'm just preparing you for if something happens, you just need to make sure you tell her how she's never made a mistake and all those things. You gotta say it. So, she's also a
Oh,
words of affirmation gal.
Kathy Ann says she'd take Gertie Birdie. There you go. So we gotta battle
Well,
it out, me and Kathy Ann and myself.
poor Bo, Brian said. No, guys, Bo's amazing. He's just more able to stand on his own. Gertrude needs all the reassurance in the world, just like me. We're the same. We're
Does
the
she have like a
same.
middle name? Do they have middle names? Do you have
I didn't
no?
do a middle name. I didn't do a middle name, but
I thought Gertrude should have a middle name because she's so.
Gertrude Quibell.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
See now, look how bright her eyes are. She had therapy today. Look at that. She had
Oh,
some
so
therapy.
needy. Incredibly. Oh, see, this is a problem when you're with your patients. Are you willing to put up with this? I need to know. If you're agreeing to it on camera, it's bound by
It's
law.
binding contract. Oh my
See,
gosh,
it's a lot. So you're gonna have to deal
she's
with
so
this
gentle. She's so
at all
gentle.
times. Yeah, but she's needy and she says, it's my love language. Kiss the ring. Are you okay with it?
And by the way, I take Luther to the groomer to get shampooed and brushed out. Did she okay with
No,
that?
we don't do that. Nope. She gets upset. Also, her schedule is full. Every time I bring up a bath, she says I'm booked to the end of the year. But I will give her once a year a bath in the sink. But Bo does go to the groomer every 6 weeks, and he will need that as well. So I hope that's not a problem.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
that's done. It's a done deal.
But this one's hair is just the way it is.
Oh
It's
my
just the way
gosh, that's the cutest.
it's so little all day. Your patients will love her. Hopefully, I don't die and this plan doesn't come into fruition. But if it does, and I am dead somehow, please just make sure that she's your highest priority
Oh
over
no,
your more than your 11-year-old. Like she takes precedence.
I know, I
Okay.
understand.
Okay. Okay. Somebody said, "What a little bowl of spaghetti."
She really is.
Dr. Gretchen, you're amazing. And I really would like to. I know that you're a very busy gal, but maybe quarterly or something if you're ever willing. I mean, I just want to be your friend first and foremost. I hope you're willing to text me again.
Of course.
But you're a friend to everyone in the community now. And I hope that you'll be willing sometime to come back and just pop in and say hello. It doesn't have to be this kind of amount of time, but even just to say hi and
Yeah, and if we want to, I mean, that's fine. And if anyone has any questions or things that come up, and they, or if we want to have in the future at some point, like specific topic, or I know that goes against your grain here. It goes against mine. Not we don't want agenda, but if we want to do a certain
Oh no,
topic,
we can do
I'm just
that.
kidding.
Okay, I'm like, I'm not. I loosely say that, but no, I can. I would love
Yeah.
to do that actually.
If we
I
want
would
to do
love
something
to.
specific, whatever. Yeah, I'm up for it.
I am so excited to have you guys. This is amazing. I'm honored, and I just want to say thank you. It's a huge
Thank you
deal.
so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, guys. I'm not going to play the Fred video because I don't know how to do it when I have another person on. I'm not that good at it. So I'm just going to end. Dr. Gretchen, will you stay on for a minute just so I can say goodbye again? Because I'm already
Sure.
feeling needy with you and I don't want you to leave. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Guys, thank you. And if Tommy and I need to battle it out, we'll have Dr. Gretchen. She will agree to that, I'm sure. Okay, guys, I think I might be on a little bit later. I might pop on a little later. So look for me and I'll post it if I do. Okay. Thank you for being here, everybody. Seriously, thank you. Thank you. Okay.